Hello, this is Carrie again, and I have another video for you today. Today, I will be showing you how to make a 128 color travel palette, and this is pretty amazing. These are all half pans, and I'm super excited about this because it's just really amazing, and I'm really enjoying the process of making this. So anyway, so what I did is I got some empty half pans, and I purchased these half pans on Amazon, and there'll be a link on the description below on the half pans, but there were 48 half pans for $10, which was actually a really good deal, and the half pans are fine. So I got the half pans, and then I also got some magnetic sheets, not magnetic tape, magnetic sheet, and there'll be a link to the specific magnetic sheets that I got. The problem that I've seen other people have is that the magnets aren't strong enough, so I decided not to bother with the magnetic tape and just go ahead and focus first on getting a magnet, and then trying to figure out if there was a company that sold adhesive, that sold the magnet with adhesive already on it, and I was lucky enough to find that. So the description for those magnets will be down in the description below. Anyway, what I'm doing now is I'm just taking some half pans that I had filled. You can see that this is a 48 color half pan tin, and I never did finish doing that because I really wanted to have all 98 colors in my Sennelier set in one place. So in order to do that, this is the process that I sort of came up with from looking at other people's videos, and then from just doing some research and some planning. So the magnetic sheets come in, the sheets are already pre-cut into smaller squares, and then each of those squares has to be cut into 4 squares in order to fit safety and comfortably into the back of the half pan. There's adhesive already on it. This is a really good high quality adhesive, and I haven't had any problems with it. So I cut the squares that are already existing into, each square I cut into 4 squares. And then I take the tape from behind the square and I put it onto the back of the half pan, and it works really, really well. It's super easy. And I was so happy with the fact that I'm able to make these really good, high quality magnetic half pans with such little effort and such high quality materials. So I was really impressed by that, and I really enjoyed that. So that's what you're seeing me doing now. Right now, I'm just putting the magnetic backing onto the half pans. So it was a little bit difficult because these can be cut with regular scissors, but I really feel like I needed slightly stronger scissors than the ones that I had to cut the magnetic sheet. But in the end, you know, I was able to get it to work. It's not really important if each of the 4 squares that you cut each individual square in is exactly even. You'll see in this video that they'll all be different sizes, and that's okay. I mean, it's not ideal. I tried to figure out a way to get them to cut them relatively evenly, but it's not okay. But it's fine because the magnets are pretty strong, and even if you make one square a little bit smaller than the rest, it still works really well. And these because these magnets are so strong, and then you can see me doing more of these. I'm not going to do all 148 of these, but I did want to do a whole bunch just to show you both how to do them with the paint already in there and the paint is already fully dry, and as well as some empty ones. And that was that's probably the slowest part of the process, is cutting the magnets and adhering them. So for some of these, I had the pans already filled, and for some of them I'll fill them after the fact. And filling them after the fact is in some ways a little bit easier. So the metal tin that I use for this is a set of 24 Derwent pencil tin, and I took out the pencils and the tray that holds the pencils, and I tested the tin to see if magnets would adhere to it, and I was able to get magnets to adhere to it, so I found that it was a good size to use. And other 24 sorts of sets of pencils are pretty much the same and would work. So it was great to see that this set of 98 colors would all fit there with room to spare, which I was not expecting that there would be room to spare. So I was super excited about that. I did a whole video on how I got this set of 98 colors of the Sennelier set. And at some point I'll do a review of the actual set itself and the colors. But in order to do that, I really wanted to get a way to have all the colors available at the same time. And this allowed me to do that with relative ease. So it was a lot of fun to be able to do that. So at this point, I have put magnets on the back of all the half pans, and I'm starting to put them in order. So I'm super excited about that. So I wanted to test everything before I actually put everything in there. And so this part is just a test. And as you can see, the pan stayed in just fine. The only thing that fell out is some of the paints fell out, which does sometimes happen. But the pans themselves were in, and I tapped it pretty hard over and over again. So I was really happy. This is totally travelable, which is crazy. You can totally travel with this. Now that's a strong magnet. It holds up an entire 12-inch steel ruler. So at this point, I'm just showing you guys the size comparison between the set of 24 pencils that I've used into a travel tin and the set of the commercial set of 48 half pans. And you can see that it is bigger. So this part is just for fun. I got a macro lens adapter from a fan. So I just wanted to show you guys the process of putting in some of the pans into the half pan. It was pretty slow. It took a couple of days just to get all 98 colors in there. But it was a lot of fun and it was totally worth it. Most of these paints I have in multiple palettes already, but a few of them, like the Opera Rose, these aren't colors that I use very often, so I don't really have them anywhere else. So this is a fun way to just have all of them accessible to me, and I can try things like someone suggested Opera Rose and Cobalt Turquoise, I think, to mix those together. So to make like a gray or something. So that's something that I'm going to do. Obviously, it's not required, but if you want to use my Amazon wishlist to purchase something for me to use for videos, there'll be a link down in the description below. So as I have already mentioned, this is from the set of 98 Sennelier colors. And essentially what I did here for the order is I just kept them in pretty much the original order that Sennelier had them in. Mainly because that's just like less hassle, and I can just look at the chart and know what color it is by the order that it's in, and I'll have a printed chart with the original order. I don't have a fancy track thing for my phone that would let me, track the colors for you all fancy, but I wanted to show you the colors up close so you guys can see the paint that's been filled. Let me go back on the tripod because I want to show you guys one last thing before we get to the actual swatching. Okay, so before we get to the swatching, I just wanted to show you the full configuration here. Like I said, I have them in the order that Sennelier put them in, but I do want to talk to you a little bit about the way that I have them for these particular pans. There'll be a link to these particular pans down in the description, but for these particular pans, the easiest way to fit as many paints as possible is to fit 13 across, 9 up and down in this vertical pan configuration, and then an additional 11 across. And if you do the math, that adds up to 128, which means that there are 98 colors in this set, so I have room for 30 more colors, which is a little crazy, and I'm probably not going to fill them up with 30 more colors. Instead, what I'm probably going to do is I'm not going to use this many colors for any one particular piece. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move them out of the way and put them here. So like if I'm using this color and that color, so that's probably what I'm going to do. But I wanted to show you that and show you the math so you can see how that works. And once again, this is just an empty tin. Now, if you wanted to, you could take this and you could, I don't know, get some kind of paint or surface on it to turn this into a mixing area. Actually, you could probably use it as a mixing area as is, but I like to mix on porcelain, so I will have a porcelain palette with me. But you can see this. This is fairly lightweight, and you can totally travel with this. The paints will be, right now the paints are wet, otherwise I would turn them over, but you guys already saw me turning them over with the pants in there. So you can use this as a home setup or as well as a travel setup. That's this part of the video done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break, and then I will be back and we can start the swatching, which should be a lot of fun. And we are going to swatch all of these colors except for the whites. I'm not going to swatch the two white colors. The Chinese white, the titanium white, which I think is first, is transparent, and the I'm sorry, it's the other way around. The Chinese white is transparent and the titanium white is opaque, and that's pretty much it. If you guys want to see me use the white, I use the white for various reasons. I use the titanium white a lot for highlights because it is opaque enough to use for highlights, and not have to bother with gouache. So there's that. So I'm gonna take a break, and like I said, and then I'll be back and then we can start the swatching. All right. All right, so I'm holding the paper up just because that's easier for me. I talked about it in the past, but I have Dandy Walker hydrocephalus, so my vision is not that great, so I usually hold stuff up in this way, and this is pretty much how I work. That's why you don't see me doing a lot of color with me videos or that sort of thing, because I hold the papers up to myself that way, and that's pretty much the best way for me to be able to see what's going on. And I have been to a doctor, and I have looked at all pretty much, all the options, and I've been to so many doctors, but at this point it is what it is, and it's the Dandy Walker, and there's not much that can be done on that regard anyway. And I hate talking about my health problems because I feel like everybody has their own health problems. So I just hate talking about it. But anyway, so that's neither here nor there. Okay, so there may be some shakiness because I'm holding the paper up, and that's why you don't see me do a lot of color with me or that sort of thing, because of the way that I have to color. It's just really hard for the camera to get a good angle on it. Anyway, the first one that I was doing was Nickel Yellow, and that is PY53, and the one that I'm doing right now is Lemon Yellow, and this is the base yellow that I think Sennelier puts in pretty much everything, and this is PY3. I know some people don't like PY3, but it works for me. Like I said, I'm not a professional artist. I'm doing this for shiggles. So and the other thing is there are going to be a lot of cuts, mainly because I had recorded this as one shot with talking as I was doing this, but then in the end I realized that the parts where I was just swirling the water around to get the water out to get the color out of the brush and to clean the brush, that part was really boring, so I ended up just cutting it out. So this will, even though this video is literally going to be an hour long, that's still cutting out at least 10 minutes of just water swirling in silence. Anyway, so this one that I'm just doing is called Raeleen, and it is PY40, and it's an interesting color. It's listed here as transparent, but it doesn't feel that transparent to me. And then the color that I'm working on right now next to is Cadmium Lemon Yellow, which is a color that I like, but I haven't really used it that often. So I'm glad that I've put it in this big palette, because I'm going to try to make more use of it. And that is an opaque color, and that's PY35. The next one is Primary Yellow. I don't know why I went back and cleaned up the Cadmium Lemon Yellow, but this one is Primary Yellow, and Primary Yellow is another one that Sennelier uses a lot of, and it is PY74. Now, I don't understand Sennelier's chart all that much in terms of their light fastness, because they have one part here where they say, where it says it's not rated, but then another part where it says that it conforms to ASTM as very light fast. So it's weird. Anyway, that's the Primary Yellow. And there's a lot of colors like that where This, I guess the official Sennelier rating doesn't match with the ASTM rating. So I would, test these yourself before using them, or look at, like, I think the website is called Handprint or something along those lines. Anyway, I was talking so much I didn't get around to this one. This one is Cadmium Yellow Light, and it is PY35. And the one that I'm doing right now is Sennelier Yellow Light, and it is PY153. And this one is another one that I don't really use all that often. In fact, I don't even think it's in my 48 color set, but it is a really nice, vibrant yellow. As you can see, it's a very pretty color. So Sennelier has a lot of really, like, pretty yellows. But I usually just stick to either the lemon yellow or the primary yellow for their base yellows. Now, some of their more interesting yellows, I do use some of the other one. This is Indian yellow, and this is the one that I use in place of, like, a new gamboge or something like that. And this is PY154 and PY153. And the thing that's interesting, the Sennelier does do a lot of multi-pigment colors, which I may have mentioned before. And this is just a cut because I don't know what happened, but I did end up cutting it. I skipped the lake. I think it's because a little bit of the Indian went into the lake area. After a while, I decided not to skip them over that. Anyway, this is Naples Yellow. And their Naples Yellow has all number of pigments. It is PY35, Pigment Yellow 35, Pigment White 6, and Pigment White 4, which is a lot. But it's a nice looking color. It's not a color that I use very often. Yellow Sophie. Now, I do use this one a lot, and it's in all my palettes, mainly because the set that I got came with 2 tubes of this paint, so I want to go through this sucker. So all the paints where I got 2 tubes of 3 different colors. I want to go through those and use those as much as possible. Anyway, that is Yellow Sophie, and it's a bright, it's a nice bright yellow. The next one is Naples Yellow Deep, and this one is PBR 24, which is Pigment Brown 24. Now, normally I would put the Naples in with the earth tones, but they had it listed here with the yellows, and like I said, I'm sticking to the chart that they made. I have heard people talk about how they don't find the Sennelier colors to be pretty vibrant, and I don't find that to be the case. I really enjoy the colors, and I find them to be vibrant enough. But if you're having trouble, you just put in like a little drop of water before you get going, and you let it sit for a minute, and that should do it for you. Anyway, that's just a random tip for you. The next color, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, is Cadmium Yellow Deep. And this one is also PY35, and it is opaque. And this one is Sennelier Yellow. Oh, wait, I'm still working on the Cadmium Yellow. Sorry, this is still the Cadmium Yellow Deep. Okay, so this one here is Sennelier Yellow Deep. And this is PY83 and PY153, and this is listed as semi-opaque and also listed as, for some reason, very light fast. So that's the Sennelier Yellow Deep. All right, so the next one here is Cadmium Yellow Orange, and it is PY35 and PO20, Pigment Orange 20. All right, so this one here is red orange, and it is PO43 and PY83, and this is listed as transparent. And I don't really use this one as much. I'm not that big into oranges. I don't do that much floral painting, which is funny because that's really what Sennelier is known for, and that's what a lot of people use it for. Okay, this one is Sennelier Orange, and it is PO73. This is Pigment Orange 73. It's very vibrant orange, and it's a very popping color. So if you like super vibrant colors, this is definitely going to be one that you're going to like. So now I go back to doing the Yellow Lake. And this one is PY150, and it's transparent. As you can see, it's really transparent yellow. It looks more brown when it's dry, but once you do it, it does have a little bit of a brown tinge, but once you like use it, it's definitely a yellow color. All right, so we are now, and this is Chinese Orange, and it is, Chinese Orange is Pigment Y150, PR209, and PBR23. So this is one of those colors with a lot of pigments, but it's a very pretty color. The next color is French Vermilion, which is PBR242. And it's a color that they use a lot in their sets, and it's a really nice color. I use it, all the time. It's a pretty nice color. Okay, so I'm gonna skip Scarlet Lacquer and then go straight to Rose D'Or Madder Lake, which is different than Rose Madder Lake. This is another color I don't use all that often. I believe that a lot of people use this in a split primary, and for their warm red is what people use this for. All right, then I went back to Scarlet Lacquer. Scarlet Lacquer is an interesting color. It's one of the colors that makes me want to spend more time doing, florals. It is semi-opaque with moderate light fastness, and it is pigment PR188. So it's a very interesting warmish red. Now this next color, I believe, is the bright red, which is a very middle of the road red. It's not too cool, it's not too warm, and it's the red that is included in a lot of their sets. Now it's listed as no rating from ASTM, which makes me think that it's fugitive. So then it's really weird that they include this in their sets, but it also has no pigment number, which makes me think even more that it's fugitive. So the next color here is Cadmium Red Light, which in this case is PR108. And this is what I tend to use as my warm red when I do my split primary. Even though it is an opaque color, I tend to use this as my warm red. It's a nice color, and I like it as my sort of, even though, it is a little opaque, I don't mind it that much. All right, so the next color is Sennelier Red, which is PR254, and it is transparent. It is listed as no rating, which I'm gonna again assume is fugitive. The next color that I'm going to look at is Pyrroline Brown, which is a really pretty color, and it's a color that I really like, but I have not used it as much as I would have liked because it is a 3 pigment color. It is PR208, PY83, PR 179. So it's kind of a lot of colors for a color that I'm gonna probably end up mixing, but it is a really pretty color, and this is another color that I would probably use more if I did more florals. Next color is Cadmium Red Purple, and it is opaque. It is PR 108, and it's one of those colors that when I run out of it in the tube, I like the color and I have used it. When I run out of this in the tube, I'm just gonna go ahead and pay more money to get this in the pans because it was so soupy and it's so sticky and it's so prone to getting hair stuck in it. So I'm just gonna get that one in the pan set. Anyway, this is a really pretty fugitive color. This is Alizarin Crimson Lake, and it is PR 83, and it is definitely listed as a fugitive color, but it's so pretty. And this is probably one of those colors that I'm going to use when I'm doing coloring books, and I don't care if something fades or not, and I'm just having like fun because it is a really pretty color, which that seems to be the case with a lot of reds. The prettier they are, the more fugitive they seem to be. And the next red that I'm going to be doing is Venetian Red, which is PR 101. And this one actually surprised me because a lot of the PR 101s that I got, they seem to come out really soupy and never dry. And so far this one is actually drying, which is a really, it's a relief, because PR 101 is a pigment that I enjoy, and I've never met a PR 101 that I didn't like. I just end up not using them because of the soupiness. But anyway, next one is Alizarin Crimson, and this is a 3 pigment color. I know some people have complained that this doesn't look like a traditional Alizarin Crimson, but there you have it. It is PR 209, PY 83, PR 129. And it is definitely browner than the Alizarin Crimson Lake, but I like them both just a little bit differently. So for the next 3 colors, I accidentally did not press record, which is unfortunate because I really like Crimson, and I really like Carmine and Quinacridone Red. So the colors that I missed are Carmine, which is PV19, Crimson Lake, which is 3 pigments, and Quinacridone Red, which is PR 209, and that's a fun color. And so the next one, which I've labeled as Rose, I believe is what I wrote down, is Rose Madder Lake, to differentiate it from Rose Door Madder Lake, and it is also PV19. But of the PV19s here, I like Carmine better than I like Rose Madder Lake. Maybe because Carmine is a little bit less vibrant and a little bit less pink. So I skip Opera Rose. I'm going to go back to it because I didn't have that one in the tube, only in the pan. And the next one is Cobalt Violet Light Hue, and it is 3 pigments. It is, first of all, it's opaque, and it's moderately light fast. It's PV16, PR 122, and Pigment White 6. And it's one of those pretty colors that I would use more if I was more of a floral painter, because I like the hue, but it's not really a color that I'm going to be mixing all that often because of those all those pigments. But then there is Permanent Magenta, which is PV19, and I love this color. This is what I use sort of as a second place because I can't use either one of the purple violet hues. So I use this one in their stead. It's not quite the same hue, but this one is PV19 and it's more light fast and it's only 1 pigment. So this one is what I use instead. And the next one is also really pretty. It is Cobalt Violet Deep Hue, and this one is super pretty. It is PR 122 and PV 16. It's semi-transparent and it's moderately opaque. This is just a really pretty purple, and it feels more like a lighter, like if you wanted dioxazine purple, but a little bit lighter and a little bit softer, then this is kind of a good color that I really enjoy. And it's one of those colors that I wouldn't have bought on my own, but I'm glad it's in the set, and I'll probably use it more. Anyway, the next color is Red Violet. and this is PV16. Now this is a color, I believe this is one of those soupy colors that I'll probably end up getting in a pan when it runs out, because some of these colors, especially among the reds, some of these colors just got so soupy coming out, and it was such a pain to mix the pigment in with the binder that I end up just like whatever. But it is a really pretty color, and I'm glad that I have it, and I like the fact that it's a single pigment color too. This one is Helios Purple, which I feel like there's a language thing that I'm missing out on, because this is clearly not purple, it's clearly pink, and it is listed as fugitive, and it is PR122. So it's listed here as fugitive, and I feel like pinks tend to be fugitive, so so there's that. But if you are into pink, then this Helios Purple is a really nice pink. All right, so the next color is Blue Violet. Now this color I do have in my palette more than the Red Violet. It is a little bit more bluish, and it is PV15, and it is listed as light fast, and it's transparent also. So this is another really nice color. I will say this about their selections of, they do have a nice range of purples, which is why I think there's a lot of reasons why people who are floral painters like Sennelier, but that's just one of the many reasons why if you're a floral painter, then I definitely highly recommend Sennelier. Anyway, the next color up is one of my all-time favorites, and it is listed as moderately light fast, and it is Dioxazine Purple, which is PV23, and I don't care. I like it. It's really strong, and if you see me doing this, it's semi-transparent, and if you see me doing this, you see how I'm sort of going around it, because this is one of those colors where it has a huge punch, so I'm trying not to pick up as much of the color as I was picking up for some of the other colors that you saw me do, or that you'll see me do later. When I do the green earth, I'll pick up a whole lot of that green earth, but for this one I was trying very carefully not to pick up too much. This next one is Persian Blue, which is PB27, and it is transparent, it is light fast, and it is pretty, and it's one of the colors for which I really like having the larger set, because it's one of those colors that I wouldn't have in my permanent palette, like I said, a set of 24, but that I would really like to have for specific uses, like for for certain kinds of shadows or something like that. This is indigo, which I'll admit I almost never use indigo, especially the Sennelier indigo. The regular indigo is already 2 pigments, but the Sennelier indigo is 3 pigments. It is PB60, PB15-1, which I think is a phthalo, and PBK7. And it's just not like, for me, it's just too many pigments. It's basically this next color, Enderthrone, with black added, and I would just rather use Enderthrone, and that's just me. So this is Blue Enderthrone, and this is a color that I really like. The hue on the indigo is pretty, but I definitely prefer the Blue Enderthrone for my everyday using in my palette and my mixing. So the Blue Enderthrone is what I like, and that's PB60, and it is listed here as light fast. This next color is Cobalt Deep, which is PB72, sorry, not PB27, PB72, and it is one of those expensive cobalt colors that I would not own if I didn't have a set, because these are the only cobalts I own, are the ones that are in this set, and they are definitely soupy kind of colors. All the cobalts that I've seen in this set are definitely soupy, but it's not so bad that I would replace the tube with a pan. It's just something that I would mix in. And because it is a little bit on the soupy side, I got tired at this point and I didn't feel like trying to mix in the blue. So the next one, the Cobalt Blue, I skip and I go back to that at a later date because I just didn't feel like mixing it and I was just being lazy. Anyway, this is Ultramarine Deep that I'm playing with right now, and Ultramarine Deep is PB29, and it is so beautiful. This is by far my favorite Ultramarine Deep. It's my favorite Ultramarine. It's just such a pretty color. It's so nice, and unlike most of the other ultramarines that I've seen, this doesn't dry hard as a rock. This dries in a very sort of Sennelier way of still being totally usable. And for that reason, it's definitely my preferred ultramarine, and I have that in all my palettes. And I'm actually basically almost out of the tube that I got it in. So so there's that. So the next color is French ultramarine, which is PB29 and PV15, sorry. And you definitely see a little bit of that purple. It's definitely a more purplish color. I was afraid of putting this in the sets, in some of my sets, but I found that it makes just as well as the regular one, and the extra pigment didn't cause a problem at all. So this is a really nice one, the French ultramarine. If you want a more reddish ultramarine, that's a really nice one. This is an ultramarine light that I just missed, and it's also PV29, and it's a really nice color. I'm not sure that I would have bought it if it didn't come in the set. And this one is called Blue Sennelier, but it's basically Phthalo Blue green shade. I'm sorry, Phthalo Blue Red shade. And this is PB15-6. And so that's basically Phthalo Blue Red shade is basically what it is. And that's what I use it as, you know. And this next one is Phthalo Blue. And in other brands, it would be called Phthalo Blue Green shade is the one after that. But normally most of the sets that you get will include the Phthalo Blue Green shade, which is the one that I'm about to do. But I have been really enjoying the Blue Sennelier, which is the red shade. And I'm sort of growing to have a new appreciation for Phthalo Blue Red shade. It's, I don't feel like I lose anything when I mix up my greens with it, and it gives me a little bit more versatility. So I really am starting to fall in love with this Phthalo Blue Red shade. But this Phthalo Blue Green shade is a great color, and I really like it because it's Phthalo Blue, and it's just a fun color. Okay, so now I am back. This is recorded on another day. This is Cinereous Blue, and it is Phthalo Blue green shade with white added. This is PB 15-3 plus PW4. It's probably one of the few colors that I question whether or not this color should exist. Although not as much as I question whether or not this next color should exist. This is royal blue. It first doesn't look like what I would think of as a royal blue, which would be a dark blue. And second of all, it is PB15 -6 plus pigment white 6 plus PB29. And it's not a pretty color, at least not to me. It doesn't seem to have a purpose, and this is one color where I get to the point of like, okay, you're just doing filler at this point, because this color, I would take this out and put in a whole nother different color. So this is a color that I would just flat out do away with. But anyway, the next color is much more useful. It is Cerulean Blue, and it is PB29, and it is very pretty. But it also is one of those colors that required a fair amount of mixing. I still would probably get this one in the tube. It is opaque, but there was a lot of mixing involved with massaging the tube and getting the colors in there. But it's still a fun enough color, and there was enough body to it that it was fine getting it in the tube. And when this runs out, that's probably what I'll do, is replace it with the color in the tube. Sorry about that. All right, this next one is Cerulean Blue Red shade, and it is opaque, and it's also PB29. And this one required more mixing than the other one, than the other Cerulean Blue. And this one I probably will replace in the half pans. But it is a really pretty color, and I actually like this one better than the other Cerulean Blue. It sort of has I don't know, I kind of like it just a little bit better, which is fine. Okay, so this one is turquoise green and it is PG 50. And this is actually one of the colors that made me decide that I wanted to do the big palette, because there were people talking about some of the mixes that you can make with this color. But I don't like the color individually enough that I have it in any of my sets. So I wanted to have a place where I can take these colors and just play with them and experiment with them and learn a lot. So that's one of the reasons why I got this one. This is Cobalt Green, and it is another color that I don't think is in any of my sets, and it is PG 36 and it is opaque, but I like it. It's not the kind of green that I would use all that often, but it is a pretty color. And one of the things that I found in having this set and doing the swatches, because I've done multiple swatches, is that this really makes me want to be a floral painter and learn more about painting florals. So I definitely want to play more with that. This is Thalocene turquoise. This is Phthalo turquoise, and it is PB 15-3 and PG 7, and it is really pretty. I'm not a turquoisey kind of person, but if I was going to like turquoise, this would be the turquoise that I would like. It's just a really dark, pretty turquoise. Now, the next few colors here are going to be a little bit controversial. Not for anything that Sennelier has done, but mainly because Sennelier does not have a single pigment phthalo green, which is wild, but they do not. So that is something that is lacking, but there's a couple of places where I would pull out colors and add the single pigment phthalo green. However, this is forest green. It is a 3 pigment color, but it's so pretty that I end up including it in my set. And usually what I've done is I just added the Daniel Smith phthalo green, and then I'll include that with this. Anyway, I talked so much about the lack of a single pigment phthalo green that I didn't get around to giving you the pigments in forest green, but it's 3 pigments. This is Phthalo Green Deep, which is much closer to a single pigment phthalo green, but it is also a 2 pigment color. It is PB 15-3 and PG 7. However, it is a pretty color, and I do have it in my 48 set, and it's a color that I use like when I'm doing like pines and that sort of thing. So this is Viridian, and I'll admit that I'm not a big fan of Viridian in general. I have the Winsor Newton Viridian, and it takes so much effort to re-wet and has so little payoff that I just literally ignore it. But anyway, in this brand, it is PG 18 and PG 7. However, I will say this about the Sennelier Viridian: it definitely re-wets much easier than the Winsor Newton Viridian, and so if I was going with a Viridian, this would be the Viridian that I would go with. All right, so the next color is one of the colors where I absolutely positively would not get the tube again. I love the color, and I would just get this if it's available as a half pan. It's not only soupy, but some of these colors are soupy and they dry really fast, and you're surprised at how well they sort of mix together and reconstitute. This color is soupy and dries super slow and never actually got to the point of being totally dry. This is one of a handful of colors that never really got to the point of being totally dry, and with cats in the house, it was a problem. Anyway, the color is PG 36, and it is a pretty color, and I do like it, but when it runs out, I'm definitely replacing it with the half pans. This is a non-starter that is not going to be replaced with tubes. Just absolutely not. It just takes too long, and it doesn't ever really get fully dry. Anyway, so earlier I meant that there was no phthalo green blue shade. But you can use this Sennelier green, the one that I'm doing right now, as a phthalo green yellow shade, and this is PG 36. So you can definitely use this one as a phthalo green yellow shade, but it is much more yellow than I would want a phthalo green, even a phthalo green yellow shade to be. Still, it's a good color, and I like it, and I have it in most of my palettes. Anyway, this is Cadmium Green Light, and Cadmium Green Light is PG 7 and PY 35. It's a very greenish sort of color that you can use for your convenience greens. It's semi-opaque. Next up is Hooker's Green, which I have here is Hooker's Green, which is in this case PY83 and PG36, and this is an interesting convenience green, not one of my favorite convenience greens. It's named after, I believe, a botanist and a journalist whose last name was Hooker, so that's where you get Hooker's Green from. But it's a fun color. It's not my top colors, but it's not a terrible color either. All right, so this next one is Chromium Oxide Green. It is PG17. It is opaque, and I love it. It is opaque, but I absolutely love it. It's really pretty, and I just absolutely enjoy it. Okay, so right now I'm just gonna drop a drop of water into this earth green, and I'm not gonna get started on it because I'm gonna go straight to the sap green, which is one of my favorite Sennelier colors. I absolutely love this sap green. It is PB29 and PY153. It's moderately light, fast, and semi-opaque, but it's really pretty, and I generally really like this. Now, it's a convenience green, but I tend to add something to it. I'll either add a little bit of yellow or add a little bit of blue, or sometimes even add a little bit of pine green to it, one of the pine greens that are there. And it's just a fun color that mixes easily, and I just generally like it, and I use it a lot in my coloring books. And in some of my freehand sketching. Now we're getting into earth green. This is one of the most fascinating colors. Now, I've been telling you about a lot of colors that I would get in a pan. This is probably the only color that I would say absolutely positively there's no way I would get this in a pan. I would get this in a tube, always in a tube, because it is really hard to re-wet, and it has very low tinting strength. It is, first of all, it's not even a green pigment, it's PR7, and you saw how I dropped a drop of water there, and I not only dropped a drop of water there, I'm working this really hard, and you see that I had way more pigment on there than I did for most of the colors, and I still have to work it pretty hard to get that out, and that's when the color is dry. So even though I did pour this out in a pan, this is one of those colors where if I was working with this color for painting or anything, I would prefer to pour out some straight from the tube and have a little bit there with me and work with it straight from the tube rather than working from the re-wetted one, just because the tinting strength is so low. It's once again PBR7, which is Pigment Brown 7, but that's clearly not a brown, that's clearly a green, and it's a very, very pretty green, even though it's a lot of work, and it's a very sort of faint green. This is the kind of color that I would use for a lot of layering. I would use this color for getting like some muted effects, but I really, really like this color, even though it's so much work. All right, so the next color up is olive green, and this is another really nice convenience green. The pigments on this one are PY150, PG36, and PBR23. So it does have a brown in it, but you can kind of see the brown yellow. So this is a really nice color, but I would definitely, be careful blending this one. And the next color is Phthalo Green Light, which is PG7 and PY153. Now, this color is also another color that Sennelier includes in the sets. I'll tell you this, I don't think that they include their best colors in the set. Sometimes it seems weird, but this Phthalo Green Light, I actually found myself using it after a while, and found it actually really useful, but it's still not the color that I would put in a set of 12, even though they do include it. Anyway, this next color is Bright yellow green, and it is exactly that. It's PG7 and PY3, so it's exactly bright green. So if you like really bright, almost fluorescent colors, this is one, and it's moderately light fast. This next color is the color after that is brown green, and I believe that that's sort of more akin to antique green. And I absolutely love this color. This is one of those surprise colors where on the printed materials it doesn't look that interesting, but in paper and using it, it's really a fun color. It is PY129. And it says here no rating, which is probably why it's not more popular, but I absolutely love this color and I was really, really impressed by it. The next one is brown pink, and I'll talk a little bit about the name on this one. This one is PY150, PG7, and PBR23. And I believe that in the past, like in the 1400s, pink might have been interchangeable with yellow. And so by brown pink, it's more like antique yellow. And that definitely looks like an antique yellow. So I think that's more what they mean as opposed to what we think of today as brown and what we think of today as pink. And I think that's closer to what it means. Anyway, this next color is the French ochre, which is a color that I probably will never use. It is a 4 pigment color, and I have about 3 or 4 of these. This is PY3, PY150, PBR23, and PBR7, and that's a whole lot of pigments. In the end, it is just like, you know, yellow and brown, but it's still a lot of pigments, and it's still not, I don't see enough in that color to make it useful for me. But if you like that color, definitely check it out for layering as opposed to mixing. Anyway, the next color is light yellow ochre, and this is PY43 and PY150. And this one is definitely an opaque color, but I still really like this color. And this is a color that I'm definitely more interested in. All right, so up now is the yellow ochre, which is a color that I do enjoy. Yellow ochre is PY43. It is opaque, but I still use it for layering and, you know, like in the lower layers. And it's a really fun color, even though it is opaque. Like, I'm not that pressed about opaque versus transparent, but there you have it. Gold ochre is really pretty color. It is opaque. It is PY119, PY42, and PY83. And I love this color, and I really, really enjoy it. This color sort of reminds me of like what would happen if yellow ochre and like Daniel Smith's Quin Gold had a baby. Then they would make this sort of gold ochre color that I am so enjoying. So that is pretty much the gold ochre. It's not a required color, but you know, it's definitely a color, a nice color to have. Anyway, now we're getting to the Quin Gold. This version is PBR 101, PY 150, and PR 206. And I still have Daniel Smith. I still have a couple of tubes of Daniel Smith single pigment Quin Gold. So I have not used this one that much. I've just been using the Daniel Smith Quin Gold, and I'm going to keep using it until I've run out of it. Anyway, this next color is Burnt Sienna. Now, I'm sorry, I said Daniel Smith. Now, Sennelier does have a problem with their siennas and their umbers, and I think universally they aren't really that strong except for the green umber, which is a mix of multiple colors, but these are not really very strong pigments. This is PBR7, so it's a true burnt sienna. This next color is Permanent Alizarin Crimson, and it is PR206, and it is really nice deep sort of blood red color. And it's very sort of like, it reminds me of like, if you guys are into fountain pens, the Oxblood color, this is what this one reminds me of. All right, the next color is going to be Caput Mortem, and this is an opaque color, and it was a pain to pour into the pans. It was a pain to shake into the tubes. If there's one color that you decide that you definitely want to get, this is a very pretty color, but it is also one that I would absolutely positively tell you that if you are going to put it into pans and let it dry, just go ahead and purchase the pan on this one, because the tube on this one is a pain. So I would just go ahead and purchase the pan on this one. I wouldn't even bother with the tube. The next color is a really nice dark Payne's gray. This one it has a little bit of a blue tint, but it is definitely more neutral than some of the other Payne's grays that I've seen. And I do put this one in my palette, even though I also put in a black, but I do put this one in my palette. This one has a little bit of a blue tint, but it's not like excessively blue like some colors, like some Payne's grays are like excessively blue. All right, so the pigments in this Payne's gray are PV19, PB151, and PBK7. All right, so the next one up is the neutral tint, and the pigments on the neutral tint are PB60, PBK7, PBR209. So that's what you get with the neutral tint. And this neutral tint is, it's definitely much more neutral than the Payne's gray, and it's really has a very strong tinting strength. But, you know, with this Sennelier paints, you know, misting them a little bit before you start using them, and you'll get the full blast of this color. Next up is the Van Dyke Brown. And this is PBK7 and PR101. And as with the other PR101, well, most of the other PR101s from this, I would definitely prefer to get the palette, the pan, instead of the tube. All right, and next up is Warm Sepia, which is another color that Sennelier loves to include in the sets. This is PBR7 and PBK7, and this is another color that I did find some use for it, but it's not necessarily a color that I would include in a set of 12 or even a set of 24, but they seem to include this a lot in a lot of their sets, and I'm not really sure why. It's not really like, if they're going to include a black, then why not just go all out and actually include the black? This is also one of those colors where you have to put in some water first and let it sit for a while. I did have a little bit of problems re-wetting it and, you know, getting in there and, you know, using it, but the color is a nice color. So there's that. So that's that one. And now we are getting into another block of the PBR7. This is Raw Umber, which is PBR7. And once again, with this one less so than some of the others, but once again, these are not the strongest PBR7s, which is surprising because that's a relatively inexpensive pigment. So I don't understand why they feel a little bit on the weak side, and they feel like it takes a little bit more working with them. And it definitely takes like putting water in first and then letting them sit for a while, and even still they're not as vibrant on the first pass as some of the others. But when you do layer them and when you do glaze them, they do get, you know, a really strong punch with the glazing. Same with the Raw Sienna, which actually between the two, I actually like the Raw Sienna better. But they're both, you know, really nice earth browns. And this one is also PBR7, obviously, since it's a true burnt sienna. So there's that. And next up is Burnt Umber. Now, I'm still working on the Raw Sienna, but with the Burnt Umber, it's also one where you definitely want to put in a couple of drops of water, and you won't have this difficult a time working it as I did, because as you saw me, I didn't really pre-wet these because I didn't want them to overflow. So when I didn't do that, they definitely had a little bit more problems getting started, but once I actually got them going, I was definitely, you know, These are definitely usable if you're going to be glazing. If you're not going to be glazing, then I'm still undecided if I'm going to keep using the Sennelier burnt umber, or if I'm going to switch to the Daniel Smith. But you know, for glazing, it's fine. This is a transparent brown. Now this is PBK7 and PR101. And I'm actually, you know, this is one of those colors where I was kind of like, it's definitely, it's like a more transparent version of the warm umber, but of the warm sepia, and I actually was kind of liking this color, even though it wasn't like on my top priority colors. I actually found myself really liking this color. All right, so now we are getting into, I think a few of these colors are colors that I personally, even though I do use a lot of cityscapes, I personally like this particular color. First of all, was insanely difficult to mix into the tube. Like, it had a lot of liquid when it came out, and the pigment was kind of not really there. And I had to like mix it up really hard. But this is also another one of those 4 pigment colors, which I don't really see in very many brands, but Sennelier has a few of those. Anyway, the warm gray is PW6, PY42, PBK11, and PR101. The one that I'm working on now, which I actually like a little bit better, Sennelier Gray, is PW6, PBK9, and PG17. And this one here that I'm working on now, I actually really like this color. This greenish umber is PB60, PBK7, and PY83. And I actually was really impressed by that color. Now we're getting back to the light grays. This is another of the grays. I like this one the best, but I'm not sure that's saying much. This is PW6, PB29, PBK7. Now we are getting to the very end. This is lamp black, which for some reason is 2 pigments here. It is PBK9 and PY43. And I must say, it's weird to have a preference for your black, but I really did have a preference of the black, and I was not a fan of the lamp black. I did really enjoy the ivory black, and that might be why I'm not that impressed with their grays, because when I need a gray, there's any number of ways to do it, and the way that the grays are done, I didn't really enjoy. And this is ivory black, which is listed as more opaque, but I didn't find it to be that opaque. And I did enjoy that. And that's PBK9 is the ivory black, and the raw sepia is PBR7 and PBK7. This is not a color that I use very often, but it's here. All right, now we are getting to the very end. So for this part, this is when I got out the pan of Opera Rose. And as you can see, it's extremely fluorescent, extremely vibrant, and not really a color that I will use on its own, like, ever. It's just literally not for me. And the last one is Cobalt Blue, and I forgot why I didn't use a dropper for the Cobalt Blue, but I had a reason. I don't remember now. But this is the Cobalt Blue, and it's a very nice Cobalt Blue. I mean, it's a really nice color. I know some people don't like to use semi-toxic, toxic pigments, but this is Cobalt. If you use Cobalt, then this is one that you might like. All right, we are at the end, and I cannot believe we are all the way at the end. This is absolutely amazing. Thank you guys for watching. I never imagined I would do a video this long. If anybody is still watching, which I highly doubt, thank you so much for watching. I will reward you at the very end with a video of one of the cats, but I do want to show you this. I did change the order a little bit. I just moved stuff a little bit just to be able to easily identify. So this is the end of one row, this is the end of a row, this is the middle of a row, just because it's not exactly in the same order as it's here, and I just put that little line there to be able to much more easily identify it. You can make it just using the size of the square, and that's what I've seen most people do, but I wanted to make something that was that had as much space as possible for the swatches. So let me show you this here. This is the Caput Mortem, and this is pretty much one of I know I said that for a few colors that I would get it in the half pan instead of getting it in the tube, but this is one that I want to leave this with you because most of the colors aren't like this. You see how much it dries, and also because of that I feel like you don't really get as much because it dries and there's some evaporation, so you don't really get as much as you do with some of the colors that harden much more easy and don't really have that same problem. Like for something like this where it hardens, this is raw sienna. This, you know, this hardens really fast and really strongly, and this is, you know, this is somewhere you get much more for your money. So for that Caput Mortem, I definitely somebody requested that I send them a sample, and I don't mind sending out samples, you know, to other YouTubers and stuff, but the Caput Mortem I just could not send. Anyway, so there's that, because it would just slop around in the mail and make a huge mess. But anyway, I just wanted to show you guys, this is the completed sheet. Look at this. This is amazing. I can't believe this. This is all 98 colors. Not swatched is the 2 whites, which I'll probably put up here. But like I said, one is transparent, one is opaque, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Anyway, the other thing I want to do is I want to thank you guys so much, the fans, everybody who's watched this video. I can't believe how long this video, this is one of the videos, there was so much editing, so much like the voiceover work, everything. It was so intensive, and I'm so grateful to all the fans, because this is a video that literally would not be possible without the fans and without you guys' support. I've had people use my Amazon wish list to get me the macro lens that you guys saw, the pouring shots. That was from a macro lens that was in my Amazon wish list. There'll be a link to that description down below. But if you do decide to get this set of 98 colors, and if you're a fan of Sennelier and you have the money, I absolutely recommend that you get the set of 98 colors. If you do, don't forget to use that Jackson's link down below, as well as the Amazon link. I'll give you a link to both. All of Jackson's has a better price, so if Jackson ships to your country, I definitely recommend getting it from Jackson's instead of Amazon. And I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for your support. This was super long, and I hope it was as enjoyable for you as, you know, as I wanted it to be. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Don't forget to stay tuned for the final part of the video, which is of course the cat video. So we'll end with the cat videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and consider joining Patreon, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. What's wrong, Stewie? Aw, who's your good buddy? Who's your cute kitty? Aw, you look so adorable. Alright, let you get back to your playpen.